Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. Year of the Depend Adult Undergarment, page 39. Hal? Hey, Hal? Yes, Mario. Are you asleep? Boo-boo, we've been over this. I can't be asleep if we are talking. That's what I thought. Happy to reassure you. Boy, were you on today. Boy, did you ever make that guy look sick. When he hit that one down the line and you got it and fell down and hit that drop volley, Pamela said the guy looked like he was going to be sick all over the net. He said, Boo, I kicked a kid's ass is all. End of story. I don't think it's good to rehash it when I've kicked somebody's ass. It's like a dignity thing. I think we should just let it sort of lie in state, quietly. Speaking of which... Hey, Hal. Hey, Hal. It's late, Mario. It's sleepy time. Close your eyes and think fuzzy thoughts. That's what the moms always says, too. Always worked for me, boo. You think I think fuzzy thoughts all the time. You let me room with you because you feel sorry for me. Boo-boo, I'm not even going to dignify that. I'll regard it as like a warning sign. You always get petulant when you don't get enough sleep. And here we are seeing petulance already on the western horizon, right here. Huh? When I asked if you were asleep, I was going to ask if you felt like you believed in God today, out there, when you were so on, making that guy look sick. This again? Really? Don't think midnight in a totally dark room with me, so tired my hair hurts, and drills in 6 short hours is the time and place to get into this, Mario. Huh? You ask me this once a week. You never say is why. So, tonight, to shush you, how about if I say I have administrative bones to pick with God, boo? I'll say God seems to have a kind of laid-back management style I'm not crazy about. I'm pretty much anti-death. God looks by all accounts to be pro-death. I'm not seeing how we can get together on this issue, he and I, boo. You're talking about since himself passed away. Huh? See? You never say. I do too say. I just did. I just didn't happen to say what you wanted to hear, boo, is all. There's a difference. I don't get how you couldn't feel like you believed today out there. It was so right there. You moved like you totally believed. What? How do you feel inside? Not. Mario, you and I are mysterious to each other. We countenance each other from either side of some unbridgeable difference on this issue. Let's lie very quietly and ponder this. Hal? Hey, Hal? I'm going to propose that I tell you a joke, boo, on the condition that afterward you shush and let me sleep. Is it a good one? Mario, what do you get when you cross an insomniac, an unwilling agnostic, and a dyslexic? I give. You get someone who stays up all night torturing himself mentally over the question of whether or not there's a dog. That's a good one. Shh. Hey, Hal, what's an insomniac? Somebody who rooms with you, kid. That's for sure. Hey, Hal, how come the moms never cried when himself passed away? I cried, and you, even CT cried. I saw him personally cry. You listened to Tosca over and over and cried, and you said you were sad. We all were. Hey, Hal, did the mom seem like she got happier after himself passed away to you? It seems like she got happier. She seems even taller. She stopped traveling everywhere all the time for this and that thing, the corporate grammar thing, the library protest thing. Now she never goes anywhere, Boo. Now she's got the headmaster's house and her office and the tunnel in between, and never leaves the grounds. She's a worse workaholic than she ever was, and more obsessive-compulsive. When's the last time you saw a dust mote in that house? Hey, Hal? Now she's an agoraphobic workaholic and obsessive-compulsive. This strikes you as hapification? Her eyes are better. They don't seem as sunk in. They look better. She laughs at CT way more than she laughed at himself. She laughs from lower down inside. She laughs more. Her jokes she tells are better ones than yours, even. Now, a lot of the time. How come she never got sad? She did get sad, Boo-Boo. She just got sad in her way instead of yours and mine. She got sad, I'm pretty sure. Hal, you remember how the staff lowered the flag to half-mast out front by the portcullis here after it happened? Do you remember that? And it goes to half-mast every year at convocation. Remember the flag, Boo? Hey, Hal. Don't cry, Boo-Boo. Remember the flag only halfway up the pole? Boo-Boo, there are 2 ways to lower flag to half-mast. Are you listening? Because no shit, I really have to sleep here in a second. So listen. One way to lower the flag to half-mast is just to lower the flag. There's another way, though. You can also raise the pole. You can raise the pole to like twice its original height. You get me? You understand what I mean, Mario? Hal? She's plenty sad, I bet. Page 42. October, year of the dependent adult undergarment. For Orin Incandenza number 71, morning is the soul's night. The day's worst time psychically. He cranks the condo's AC way down at night, and still most mornings wakes up soaked, feetally curled, entombed in that kind of psychic darkness where you're dreading whatever you think of. Hal Incandenza's brother Orin wakes up alone at 0730 hours amid a damp scent of ambush, and on the other side's dented pillow a note with phone number and vital data in a loopy schoolgirlish hand. There's also ambush on the note. His side of the bed is soaked. Orin makes honey toast, standing barefoot at the kitchen counter, wearing briefs and an old academy sweatshirt with the arms cut off, squeezing honey from the head of a plastic bear. The floor's so cold, it hurts his feet, but the double-pane window over the sink is hot to the touch. The beastly Metro Phoenix October AM heat just outside. Home with the team, no matter how high the AC or how thin the sheet, Orin wakes with his own impressions sweated darkly into the bed beneath him, slowly drying all day to a white salty outline, just slightly off from the week's other faint dried outlines. So his fetal-shaped fossilized image is fanned out across the side of the bed like a deck of cards, just overlapping, like an acid trail or timed exposure. The heat, just past the glass doors, tightens his scalp. He takes breakfast out to a white iron table by the condo complex's central pool and tries to eat it there. In the heat, the coffee not steaming or cooling. He sits there in dumb animal pain. He has a mustache of sweat. A bright beach ball floats and bumps against one side of the pool. The sun like a sneaky keyhole view of hell. No one else out here. The complex is a ring with the pool and deck and jacuzzi in the center. Heat shimmers off the deck like fumes from fuel. There's that mirage thing where the extreme heat makes the dry deck look wet with fuel. Orin can hear cartridge viewers going from behind closed windows, that aerobic show every morning, and also someone playing an organ, and the older woman who won't ever smile back at him in the apartment next to his, doing operatic scales, muffled by drapes and sun curtains and double panes. The jacuzzi chugs and foams. The note from last night's subject is on the violet bond once folded and with a circle of darker violet dead center, where the subject's perfume spritzer had hit it. The only interesting thing about the script, but also depressing, is that every single circle, O's, D's, P's, the numbers 6 and 8, is darkened in, while the I's are dotted not with circles, but with tiny little Valentine hearts, which are not darkened in. Orin reads the note while he eats toast. That's mainly an excuse for the honey. He uses his smaller right arm to eat and drink. His oversized left arm and big left leg remain at rest at all times in the morning. A breeze sends the beach ball skating all the way across the blue pool to the other side, and Orin watches its noiseless glide. The white iron tables have no umbrellas, and you can tell where the sun is without looking. You can feel right where it is on your body and project from there. The ball moves tentatively back out toward the middle of the pool and then stays there, not even bobbing. The same small breezes make the rotted palms along the condominium complex's stone walls rustle and click, and a couple of fronds detach and spiral down, hitting the deck with a slap. All the plants out here are malevolent, heavy, and sharp. The parts of the palms above the fronds are tufted in sick stuff like coconut hair. Roaches and other things live in the trees, rats maybe, loathsome high-altitude critters of all kinds. All the plants either spiny or meaty, cacti in queer, tortured shapes. The tops of the palms like Rod Stewart's hair from days gone by. Orin returned with the team from the Chicago game 2 nights ago, red-eye. He knows that he and the place kicker are the only 2 starters who are not still in terrible pain physically from the beating. The day before they left, so like 5 days ago, Orin was out by himself in the jacuzzi by the pool late in the day, caring for the leg, sitting in the radiant heat and bloody late daylight, with the leg in the jacuzzi, absently squeezing the tennis ball he still absently squeezes out of habit. Watching the jacuzzi funnel and bubble and foam around the leg, and out of nowhere, a bird had all of a sudden fallen into the jacuzzi with a matter-of-fact plop. Out of nowhere, out of the wide, empty sky. Nothing overhung the jacuzzi but sky. The bird seemed to have just had a coronary or something in flight, and died, and fallen out of the empty sky and landed dead in the jacuzzi, right by the leg. He brought his sunglasses down onto the bridge of his nose with a finger and looked at it. It was an undistinguished kind of bird, not a predator, like a wren maybe. It seems like no way could it have been a good sign. The dead bird bobbed and barrel-rolled in the foam, sucked under 1 second and reappearing the next, creating an illusion of continued flight. Orin had inherited none of the mom's phobias about disorder, hygiene. Not crazy about bugs, though, roaches. But he just sat there, squeezing the ball, looking at the bird, without a conscious thought in his head. By the next morning, waking up curled and entombed, it seemed like it had to have been a bad sign, though. Orin now always gets the shower so hot it's to where he can just barely stand it. The condo's whole bathroom is done in this kind of minty yellow tile he didn't choose, maybe chosen by the free safety who lived here before the Cardinals sent New Orleans the free safety, 2 reserve guards and cash for Orin Incandenza, punter. And no matter how many times he has the Terminix people out, there are still enormous roaches that come out of the bathroom drains. Sewer roaches, according to Terminix. Bladeraria implacables, or something. Really huge roaches. Armored vehicle-type bugs, totally black with Kevlar-type cases, the works, and fearless, raised in the Hobbesian sewers down there. Boston's and New Orleans' little brown roaches were bad enough, but you could at least come in and turn on a light, and they'd run for their lives. These Southwest sewer roaches, you turn on the light, and they just look up at you from the tile like, you got a problem? Orin stomped on one of them only once. That had come hellishly up out of the drain in the shower when he was in there, showering. Going out naked and putting shoes on and coming in and trying to conventionally squash it, and the result was explosive. There's still material from that one time in the tile grouting. It seems unremovable. Roach innards, sickening. Throwing the shoes away was preferable to looking at the sole to clean it. Now he keeps the big glass tumblers in the bathroom, and when he turns on a light and sees a roach, he puts a glass down over it, trapping it. After a couple of days, the glass is all steamed up, and the roach has asphyxiated messlessly, and Orin discards both the roach and the tumbler in separate, sealed Ziplocs in the dumpster complex by the golf course up the street. The yellow tile floor of the bathroom is sometimes a little obstacle course of glasses with huge roaches dying inside stoically, just sitting there. The glass is gradually steaming up with roach dioxide. The whole thing makes Orin sick. Now, he figures the hotter the shower's water, the less chance any small armored vehicle is going to feel like coming out of the drain while he's in there. Sometimes they're in the bowl of the toilet first thing in the a.m., dog paddling, trying to get to the side and climb up. He's also not crazy about spiders, though more like unconsciously. He's never come any place close to the conscious horror himself had somehow developed about the Southwest black widows and their chaotic webs. And the widows are all over the place, both here and Tucson, spottable on all but the coldest nights, their dusty webs without any kind of pattern, clotting just about any right-angled place that's dim or out of the way. Terminex's toxins are more effective on the widows. Orin has them out monthly. He's on like a subscription plan over at Terminex. Orin's special conscious horror, besides heights and the early morning, is roaches. There'd been parts of Metro Boston near the bay he'd refused to go to as a child. Roaches gave him the howling fantods. The parishes around N.O. had been having a spate or outbreak of a certain Latin origin breed of sinister tropical flying roaches that were small and timid but could fucking fly. And that kept being found swarming on New Orleans infants at night in their cribs, especially infants in like tenements or squalor, and that reportedly fed on the mucus in the baby's eyes, some special sort of optical mucus, the stuff of fucking nightmares, mobile flying roaches that wanted to get at your eyes as an infant and were reportedly blinding them. Parents would come in the ghastly a.m. tenement light and find their infants blind, like a dozen blinded infants that last summer. And it was during this spate of nightmarish outbreak plus July flooding that sent over a dozen nightmarish dead bodies from a hilltop graveyard sliding all gray-blue down the incline Orin and two teammates had their townhouse on in suburban Chalmette, shedding limbs and innards all the way down the hillside's mud, and one morning coming to rest against the post of their roadside mailbox. When Orin came out for the morning paper, Orin had had his agent put out the trade feelers, and so, to the glass canyons and merciless light of Metro Phoenix in a kind of desiccated circle near the Tucson of his own father's desiccated youth. It's the mornings after the Spider and Heights dreams that are the most painful, that it takes sometimes 3 coffees and 2 showers and sometimes a run to loosen the grip on his soul's throat. And these post-dream mornings are even worse if he wakes unalone. If the previous night's subject is still there, wanting to twitter or to cuddle and spoon, asking what exactly is the story with the foggy inverted tumblers on the bathroom floor, commenting on his night sweats, clattering around in the kitchen, making kippers or bacon or something even more hideous and unhoneyed, he's supposed to eat post-coital male gusto. The ones who have this thing about, they call it feeding my man, wanting a man who can barely keep down AM honey toast to eat with male gusto, elbows out and shoveling, making little noises. Even when alone, able to uncurl alone and sit slowly up and wring out the sheet and go to the bathroom, these darkest mornings start days that Orin can't even bring himself for hours to think about how he'll get through the day. The worst mornings with cold floors and hot windows and merciless light. The sole certainty that the day will have to be not traversed, but sort of climbed vertically. And then that going to sleep again at the end of it will be like falling again, off something tall and sheer. So now his own eye mucus is secure in the desert southwest, but the bad dreams have gotten worse since the trade to this blasted area himself had fled long ago as an unhappy youngster. As a nod to Orin's unhappy youth, all the dreams seemed to open briefly with some sort of competitive tennis situation. Last night's had started with a wide-angle shot of Orin on a Hartrue court, waiting to receive serve from someone vague, some academy person, Ross Reed maybe, or good old M. Bain or grey-toothed Walt Fletchett, now a teaching pro in the Carolinas, when the dream's screen tightens on him and abruptly dissolves to the blank dark rose color of eyes closed against bright light. And there's the ghastly feeling of being submerged and not knowing which way to head for the surface and air. And after some interval, the dream's Orin struggles up from this kind of visual suffocation to find his mother's head, Mrs. Avril M.T. Incandenza's, the mom's, disconnected head, attached face to face to his own fine head, strapped tight to his face somehow by a wraparound system of VS high-pro top-shelf lamb gut string from his Academy racket's own face, so that no matter how frantically Orin tries to move his head or shake it side to side or twist up his face or roll his eyes, he's still staring at, into, and somehow through his mother's face. As if the mom's head was some sort of over-tight helmet Orin can't wrestle his way out of. In the dream, it's understandably vital to Orin that he disengage his head from that phylacterish bind of his mother's disembodied head. And he cannot. Last night's subject's note indicates that at some point last night, Orin had clutched her head with both hands and tried to sort of stiff-arm her, though not in an ungentle or complaining way. The note, not the stiff arm. The apparent amputation of the mom's head from the rest of the mom's appears in the dream to be clean and surgically neat. There is no evidence of a stump or any kind of nubbin of a neck even, and it is as if the base of the round pretty head had been sealed and also sort of rounded off, so that her head is a large living ball, a globe with a face, attached to his own head's face. The subject after Bain's sister, but before the one just before this one, with the ambush scent and the hearts over the eyes, the previous subject had been a sallowly pretty Arizona State developmental psychology grad student with 2 kids and outrageous alimony, and pensions for sharp jewelry, refrigerated chocolate, interlace educational cartridges, and professional athletes who thrashed in their sleep. Not real bright. She thought the figure he'd traced without thinking on her bare flank after sex was the numeral 8, to give you an idea. Their last morning together, right before he'd mailed her child an expensive toy and then had his phone number changed, he awakened from a night of horror show dreams. Woke up with an abrupt fetal spasm, unrefreshed and benighted of soul, his eyes wobbling, and his wet silhouette on the bottom sheet like a coroner's chalk outline. He woke to find the subject up and sitting up against the reading pillow, wearing his sleeveless academy sweatshirt and sipping hazelnut espresso and watching, on the cartridge viewing system that occupied half the bedroom's south wall, something horrific called Interlace Educational Cartridges in conjunction with CBC Educational Programming Matrix presents Schizophrenia, Mind or Body, and had to lie there, moist and paralyzed, curled fetal on his own sweat shadow, and watch on the viewer a pale young guy about Hal's age, with copper stubble and a red cowlick and flat, blank, effectless black doll's eyes, stare into space, stage left, while a brisk Alberton voiceover explained that Fenton here was a dyed-in-the-wool paranoid schizophrenic who believed that radioactive fluids were invading his skull and that hugely complex high-tech type machines had been specially designed and programmed to pursue him without cease until they caught him and made brutal sport of him and buried him alive. It was an old, late millennial CBC public interest Canadian news documentary, digitally sharpened and redisseminated under the Interlace imprimatur. Interlace could get kind of seedy and low rent during early morning off hours, in terms of spontaneous disseminations. And so, but since the old CBC documentary's thesis was turning out pretty clearly to be schizophrenia, body, the voiceover evinced great clipped good cheer, as it explained that, well, yes, poor old Fenton here was, more or less, hopeless as an extra institutional functioning unit, but that on the upside, science could at least give his existence some sort of meaning by studying him very carefully to help learn how schizophrenia manifested itself in the human body's brain. That, in other words, with the aid of cutting-edge positron emission topography, or PET, technology, since supplanted wholly by invasive digitals, Orin hears the developmental psychology graduate student mutter to herself, watching rapt over her cup, unaware that Orin's paralytically awake. That they could scan and study how different parts of poor old Fenton's dysfunctional brain emitted positrons in a whole different topography than your average hale and hearty, non-delusional, God-fearing Alberton's brain. Advancing science by injecting test subject Fenton here with a special blood-brain barrier penetrating radioactive dye, and then sticking him in the rotating body-sized receptacle of a PET scanner. On the viewer, it's an enormous gray metal machine that looks like something co-designed by James Cameron and Fritz Lang. And now have a look at this Fenton fellow's eyes as he starts to get the gist of what the voiceover's saying. And in a terse, old public TV cut, they now showed subject Fenton in 5-point canvas restraints, whipping his copper-haired head from side to side as guys in mint-green surgical masks and caps inject him with radioactive fluids through a turkey baster-sized syringe. Then good old Fenton's eyes bugging out in total foreseen horror as he's rolled toward the huge gray PET device and slid like an unrisen loaf into the thing's open maw until only his decay-colored sneakers are in view, and the body-sized receptacle rotates the test subject counterclockwise with brutal speed, so that the old sneakers point up and then left and then down and then right and then up, faster and faster, the machine's burps and tweets not even coming close to covering Fenton's entombed howls as his worst delusional fears came true in digital stereo, and you could hear the last surviving bits of his functional, dye-permeated mind being screamed out of him for all time as the viewer digitally superimposed an image of Fenton's ember-red and neutron-blue brain in the lower right corner, where Interlace's time-temp functions usually appear. And the brisk voiceover gave capsule histories of first paranoid schizophrenia and then pet with Orin lying there, slit-eyed, wet and neuralgic with AM dread, wishing the subject would put on her clothes and sharp jewelry and take the rest of her Toblerone out of the freezer and go, so he could go to the bathroom and get yesterday's asphyxiated roaches into an EWD dumpster before the dumpsters all filled for the day, and decide what kind of expensive present to mail the subject's kid. And then, the matter of the dead bird, out of nowhere. And then, the news of pressure from the AZ Cardinal administration to cooperate with some sort of insipid type personality profile series of interviews with some profiler from Moment magazine with personal backgroundish questions to be answered in some blandly sincere team PR way. The unexamined stress of which drives him to start calling Hallie again, reopen that whole Pandora's box of worms. Orin also shaves in the shower, face red with heat, wreathed in steam, by feel, shaving upward with south to north strokes, as he was taught.